Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and all those in the audience and watching around the world who cherish freedom and democracy, thank you for being here today. I'm honored to be with you and to be on this dais with so many remarkable Americans. We come here today at a time when members of the media are trying to slander our efforts to safeguard the brave men, women, and children at Camp Ashraf and Camp Liberty. We come here today at a time when anonymous State Department officials are trying to question our motives and our morals. We come together today at a time when some people in the U.S. government are trying to intimidate us from speaking out on behalf of what we know is right and just. Our presence here this morning is a rebuke to those who oppose this cause. We will not be intimidated, we will not be discouraged, and we will not be silenced.
The MEK got tired of waiting and finally went back to court and asked the court to direct the State Department, just make up your minds, give us a ruling. State waved it off. They said, you shouldn't even consider this application. You should dismiss it out of hand. The court wasn't having any of it. They directed that the state respond by March 26. March 26 came, and the State Department's response was, in part, as you heard, the Secretary is too busy, notwithstanding the tens of thousands of people she has to help her. It was also, and this is particularly remarkable to me as a former judge, it was also that this is none of the business of the court, that this is about foreign relations. Well, folks, the State Department's list of foreign terrorist organizations is not about the authority of the State Department or the President to conduct foreign relations. That authority derives from a law. The authority to create that list derives from a law, and the law prescribes standards, and those standards have to be adhered to. The State Department can do all the conduct of foreign relations that it wants, but it can't put anybody on that list or keep anybody on that list unless they qualify. And I think, as a piece of friendly advice, it is ill-advised to tell a court that it is none of their business. I suggest to you that they will find out soon enough that it is the business of a court.
It's a tragedy that we have had to place our own sacred honor at risk by supporting this humanitarian cause, the saving of innocent lives, and the obligation of our government to keep its commitments. I never thought I would live to see the day when my own country, a country I love, a country my grandparents and great-grandparents chose to come to and bring up their children in, I never thought I would see the day when my country threatens its own citizens who speak up on behalf of law, justice, and humanitarian obligations of the United States. And I hope that will not come to pass. We love our country. We have no choice but to speak up on behalf of this cause because we love liberty. We love our Constitution. We love liberty, not Camp Liberty, but the real liberty. And we believe that promises made by our government must be kept.
I mean, think of the contradictions here, and some of them Professor Dershowitz and General Mukasey have already pointed out, but think of the contradictions. First of all, the contradictions involving all of us. You know, all of us who are under investigation for having spoken before rallies like this and rallies in Europe and taken some compensation for it. On the one hand, we're being investigated by the Treasury Department of the United States of America. On the other hand, the State Department meets with us by telephone conference regularly, every couple of weeks, and asks us to persuade the leadership in Paris to do something. So the Treasury's investigating us for contact with the MEK. The State Department asks us to have contact with the MEK. Can someone explain that to me? I'm just not smart enough to understand. But lastly, the biggest contradiction of all, The biggest contradiction of all is the contradiction of American values and ideals. And I believe we've got to get back to those ideals. The MEK should be delisted, but more importantly, every single person in the Ashraf should be protected. We should expedite them. We should let them go on living their lives because they counted on us. They relied on the good faith and credit of the United States government. And darn it, if this country stands for anything, we've got to fulfill that promise. Thank you.
We have just seen within the past weeks Secretary Clinton say that the conduct of the MEK in transferring residents from Ashraf to Camp Liberty would be a factor in deciding whether the MEK would stay on the list of foreign terrorist organizations. Now, we've all heard, she's very busy. Not busy enough, though. Not busy enough that she couldn't make that point. Another fundamentally political point. So if the original designation was bad, and it was, and if the decision in 2008 to continue the listing was worse, this is worst of all. This isn't just political. This is using a humanitarian catastrophe to attempt to achieve political objectives. Now, Governor Rendell just asked what I think is a very pertinent question and provided some telling insights into why there's no good answer. Why does the State Department keep doing this? What is the rationale here? And I think the rationale emerges from what we know about the State Department's history dealing with this regime. They are convinced to this day that you can negotiate with this authoritarian regime. I believe you cannot. But I believe what's going on here is that the State Department is fearful that if it does what it's supposed to do, that the government in Tehran will cut off the last chance to negotiate a peaceful resolution to the nuclear weapons program. Now, I don't think there's any chance that we're going to get a satisfactory diplomatic resolution anyway, but I think what's happening now is that the State Department knows it doesn't have a shred of evidence to continue this designation. If they did, and I'll steal this point from Louis Freeh, who has made it before but who's not here, if there was information that justified the continuing listing of the MEK on the foreign terrorist list in Washington as we know it, it would have leaked out. We'd be reading about it. And the silence is deafening. And it's because if the State Department can say to the regime in Tehran, we didn't take them off the list, that court made us do it, that they hope that the regime will say, oh, it's okay. Now we'll talk to you. I just find that completely irresponsible. I am perfectly content to say that if there are facts that justify a listing on the FTO list, list the organization. If the organization is on a list for political purposes or it's taken off for political purposes, that's wrong. I don't personally know any reason why the MEK should be listed. And I'll guarantee you, neither does the State Department or we're presented the evidence to the court. So the issue here turns not just on this abuse of our legal process, not just on the humanitarian tragedy that we see unfolding in Ashraf, but on our country's ability to deal effectively with the growing threat of the Ayatollahs in control of the world's most dangerous weapon. And every day that goes by that we take our eye off that eventuality is a day that makes the world much less safe. It is time. If the State Department won't act, then the court should act. I think it will, and I think hopefully in a few months we'll be back here having a very different kind of conversation. Thank you very much.
Yesterday I had the opportunity to look through a book of some 20,000 victims, people that had been killed by the regime in Iran going back to the 1980s. And it struck me that the conversation we're having now is not just a matter of weeks, days, months, but this is really the epic struggle of our time. This has been going on a long time, and what happens with the MEK and how this issue is resolved and what happens to the future of Iran is really the threshold issue of the 21st century. So I join my fellow colleagues here in wishing you the very best, and that we call upon the State Department, we call upon our government to do the right thing. And I think, as Governor Rendell said, Secretary Clinton, I believe her heart is in the right place, and the question is, will that building be able to produce the kind of decision that needs to happen quick enough, soon enough, so that there'll be no more suffering and no more what I would say would be a humanitarian tragedy if this is allowed to continue.
Patrick Kennedy, the former congressman, has come before you often. You can accuse Patrick Kennedy of many things, but you cannot accuse him of not knowing wrong when he sees it and the right that must be corrected. And he has stood before you as a son of the late Senator Kennedy, asking the administration the hard questions that it needs to respond to.
I would say certainly, and you'll recognize, we haven't won every battle, okay, but I think your involvement has made the outcome much, much better for the people of Ashraf than otherwise would be the case, and I pray that they understand that. USMC also has another expression when we're in combat, and that is that there is no better friend and no worse enemy than our foes. I think the same can be said of you. The people of Ashraf have no better friend. The United States State Department has no worse enemy. God bless you all for what you do.
Our officers and our country gave its word that the residents of Camp Ashraf will be protected. Like Grant showed President Johnson, our nation should do the right thing here, the ethical thing. Our nation simply should keep its word. Don't let these U.S.-issued identification cards by which our government sort of gives de facto protection, but not really protection, become, as my law partner, Judge Louis Freeh, once said in an op-ed recently, a license to kill. These people are defenseless. Don't let them be killed. Protect them. My final word is, Madam Secretary Clinton, delist the MEK right now and let America keep its word.